What's up, everybody? We're back here for another episode of the Level Up Your Life podcast. I have a special guest, my good friend Eric Rocha, who is a real estate investor and entrepreneur here in the Central Valley. Super excited to have you on, bro. I think you might be the first person that can match my energy, so we're going to blow these mics out.
No, I appreciate you having me, man. And we're past due on this for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been a pleasure. I love speaking. I love, connecting with people. And you've been a great friend of mine for a while, man. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you, man. I'm excited to have you on. And like I said, real estate investor, entrepreneur here locally. But what we love about the Level Up Your Life podcast, it's about leveling up your life. So it's more than just being an entrepreneur or a real estate investor.
Right.
And we're gonna touch into that. But what I love about this podcast is being able to share people's stories so that others that listen to this, our audience, can find relatability, be like, oh man, like I grew up in the same area, or I went through that struggle. Right. Well, we all have our own struggles or journeys. I think the power is in the story, not necessarily always in be this guy that's like, let me teach you how to do this fact.
Exactly.
Like the real lessons are in overcoming the challenges and just like, like I said, we all have our own challenges. So let's start off by just sharing a little bit about your background, where you're from, and let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of you guys probably know me, Eric. If not, Instagram, Eric_Rocha. Grew up in Modesto pretty much all my life, born and raised, 209. I did move to Stockton for about 2 years when I was 19. I had my firstborn. But that's about it, man. Just Modesto all my life. Been grinding it out here. And I think what kind of motivated me to be who I am today is the way I grew up. If you're familiar with Southside Modesto, that's kind of where I grew up. So rough area. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was just bad, always getting in fights during school type of thing. Like a lot of people could relate to that. So my thing was like, I don't want that to be a forever lifestyle. I'm like, this can't be it. Like there has to be a different way out of life. There has to be a different way to make it out. You know what I mean? Just because we don't see the luxury that you probably see when you go visit LA or San Diego, you see the nice cars, that type of stuff. Like just because I didn't see that every day waking up in that hood, it doesn't mean that like I can't get that. Yeah. And that's what kind of motivated me every day to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much like where I grew up at.
I love it, man. So you're a pretty competitive person, obviously being successful in entrepreneurship. Growing up, did you play sports? Like what was it like growing up? I mean, obviously, living on the South Side, like understand that's, rougher neighborhood, but like, what kind of like, what do you think was like the foundation to you becoming who you are today? Like outside of just like wanting more from life, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up with sports, played soccer for about 5 years, did boxing for quite some time too. And I think that's kind of when the transition started to happen. When I was doing boxing, I wanted to go and continue to be like even pro. But I think at that time, like I don't know if you know this about me, but I had a big like thing for collecting shoes. I was a shoe collector. But my parents, I didn't want to always be asking them for money. Jordans are expensive, right? So I was like, okay, I got to find a way to make money. Started cutting hair, became a barber. And then I started just getting a lot of clients that I dropped the boxing little by little because I was like, well, I need the money. I got a new release coming. I need the money. So it would be like come home from school and working cutting hair till about 10 p.m. in my garage. You know what I mean? So I kind of stopped the hobbies of sports and just started the hustle from there. You know what I mean?
And that was in high school?
That was in high school. Yeah, Damn. That was all high school. I was a barber for 5 years.
No way.
So that's kind of what built who I am because I'm like, well, I want to make my own money at my own time. You know what I mean? Like if I want to cut hair today, I make money. You know what I mean? If I want to stay 2 hours later, well, I make more money. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I got to make an extra 100, I got to cut 5 more people, whatever it was at that time. You know what I mean? So that's when I started to realize, okay, I go like whatever I want, like just put in the work for that. You know what I mean?
That's so powerful, man. Like I see that trend a lot with like successful entrepreneurs is that they learn that trait early on. They learn how to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when people ask me about my upbringing, I always say like one of the greatest things that got instilled in me early was learning how to work. Like I could like, okay, so if I did this, I can make this.
Exactly.
I could do this. Not just like trading time for money, but like how I can get what I want in life, right?
Right.
And so that's incredible that you started at an early age doing that. And so high school, barbering, how long did that go on? You said 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years. And then during the summers for about 3 years, when I wasn't in school, I would go and work in the fields. Okay. So I would do that, come home and then like start cutting hair. You know what I mean? So, and that's hard work. I'm gonna tell you that. Picking strawberries and doing all that, that's hard work, So, but I'm grateful that I went through that. You know what I mean? Like I kind of learned about, the industry and what really hard work is, what my parents did, my dad growing up for years did the same thing. So it's like, I'm glad I did it, to know exactly like what he had to do to put food on the table, and that's what kind of keeps on motivating me. Like, my dad is doing this and he's been doing this for years. You know what I mean? I'm doing it for like 3 years, 3 summers. And it's like, man, this is hard, you know? So I'm like, this isn't right. You know, like there's a different way out of this, you know?
Love it. That's what I was going to ask. I was like, at what point did you start to realize like, there's got to be something
It was
more
probably there. It was when I couldn't get up anymore, if my back was killing me. That's when I'm like, damn, like there has to be, these watermelons are getting heavy. There has to be something else, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
The Central Valley summers are blistering
man, over 100 degrees, man.
Yeah, you're out in the field lifting stuff, digging. I mean, that's hard work, man.
It is.
So okay, so you did that for a while, and then like, what was the period that you like started to actually start to take moves towards moving more into the career that you're now in?
I think it was probably after I had my firstborn at 19. That's when I moved to Stockton for about 2 years. And I think that's when my life kind of transitioned more. You know, I took that as like motivation. You know, I know sometimes people have kids and it's like, oh, I can't do this no more. Oh, like I got a baby, I can't do this. And I took it more like, no, like this is my mini-me. Like now I got to go 10X from where I'm at. Like I got to go on a different level now. You know, and that's when I started working retail sales, cutting hair, doing online eBay sales. Like I had like 3-4 hustles, you know, at that time. Like, so when people ask me, hey, what do you do for a living? I do whatever it takes. I do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? Like to get to where I need to be, where I deserve to be. Matter of fact,
I love it.
So,
well, and that's I love that mentality that you have. It's not just what you want, but it's where you deserve to be in life.
Exactly.
And you're putting the work to get that.
Yeah,
right?
I still am.
And I think sometimes like we get caught up into like where we see it on social media, you got to work. And it's like, it's important. And you know, we'll lead into the conversation we had previously before the podcast. But I think like we get caught into that, like we're hustling all the time, but it's like evaluating like what you're doing to make the money and going, okay, but I could like actually spend the same amount of time and do something that's going to return a higher investment.
Right, exactly.
Like, you know, investing in real estate, you're not just investing in anything, you're investing in the right property that's going to allow your money to grow.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same thing when we look at our time, we go, man, like what can I do to get to where I want to go? And that in the first phase, it's like just getting what I need to live. Mm-hmm. And then at some moment there's like, with the right mindset, there's that trigger where you're like, I need to do something different with my time so I get a different result.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and I think that's what it was. Like, that's what motivated me from like going and don't get me wrong, like I want to buy my own house one day, like my beautiful home that I dream of. But at first I was like, okay, like that's the first step everybody takes. So me having my, you know, my son, I was like, if I die tomorrow, like I need money coming in every first of the month. You know, so that's why I decided to go for multifamily, go for a 4-unit fourplex, because I know that'll continue to be here and pay cash flow. And when that property's paid off, you know, you got 4 tenants paying every first of the month. And that's just the beginning. So now my goal is to get to 100 doors. So if something happens to me, my kids are good. And they got 100 families paying them every first of the month. That's steady cash flow. You know, that's why I decided to go a different route. You know what I mean?
Wow. So going back to doing all the different hustles, how, like, at what point did you break into real estate or getting interested in it? What was that like, that moment that was like, shoot, there is like real estate is a great opportunity in investing in for me to be able to create that? Like, because you obviously didn't just like one day like, I need to get a multifamily.
You know
where
what?
did that come from?
It came from Grant Cardone. We were just talking about that. It came from Grant Cardone. Funny story. I had actually bought a home because before my mentality was there, that was the ideal dream. You know, like, oh, one day, and my parents' dream as well, like come to the United States and own a home. So I was with that same mentality, like I want to buy a home. I bought a home and I had put the deposit. I was waiting for my keys, and this is when I was having my second baby, and I'm in the hospital in the parking lot. I'm hearing a podcast by Grant Cardone saying buying a house. I get done with the podcast. I call my agent at that time and I'm like, I'm not buying a house no more. And I'm like, but listen, lad, like I want to buy a 2-unit, 3 or 4-unit. Like, can you work with me? He was so pissed off, and we were ready to get the keys to the house, you know. So I don't blame him. He was mad, but I'm like, can you work with me? Like, this is what I want to do. And he was so mad. He hanged up and we didn't do business anymore. It was crazy, you know. So I ended up going and finding a different agent. And it went on from there. But that's when after I heard that podcast by Grant Cardone, and then I went to go see him in Miami at the Growth Conference. And after that, I was like, my mind just kind of changed because it made sense owning like the first multifamily units that'll pay for all my liabilities. Yeah. Like, why? Like, if something happens, if I can't work, like I need that money to come in that can take care of my actual stuff. You know, it just made sense to me. Rather than buying a house, I'm responsible for that payment right after. If I buy a fourplex, I'm not, because the tenants pay for it. And the extra cash flow pays for my car payment, pays for my groceries. You know what I mean? So that's when my mentality switched.
Man, that's incredible. I mean, I love hearing the like when I got introduced to, and in personal development, it's obviously a broad area where there's so much different personal development, but there's always that one person that you like hear and it just changes everything.
That
for
was
you,
in
man.
the Grant Cardone.
So
For sure.
I knew there had to be. I mean, I obviously know that you're big consumer of Grant's content. So I was curious at what point, and I was wondering if that was what triggered it. And that was a lot of me, you know, like when I first got into personal development, it was like I was working a job and I was making good money at 21 years old. I was making over $80,000 a year, and I thought, yeah, fuck,
killing it, right? We're good.
You know, like 2008, I'm like, dude, this is done. I could pay for my bottle service.
And at that time, that was 80K was probably a good amount of change.
I had a 401k going, full health benefits. Like it was, I could do, for me, I could have just been good, you know? And that's, you know, my parents were like, just like, yeah, like go buy a house, like do the normal, like work hard, get a house, retire, you know, at 60 years old, that life. And they wanted safety and security because my dad was a home builder and he was, you know, an entrepreneur, but like he struggled a lot. And so he wanted the opposite of me, for me. He wanted me to have that safety and security. And I remember being introduced to this gentleman, Jeff Olson, who wrote a book called The Slight Edge. And it was like, oh my gosh, like the first 3 chapters are about these 3 people that lived basically very basic lives. And he was talking about like this particular one story in college for a little while when I was at Chico State. The only job I could get was working at Safeway. And so shout out to Safeway when I was 18. You know, it was a funny job. But like he said, you know, the bagger boy gets paid in direct proportion of the problem he solves. And the problem he solves is, do I put the can on top of the bread or the bread on top of the can? And I was like I got to go solve bigger problems like we were talking about earlier, right? And I was like, okay, I need to go find more in life. And that's when I ended up quitting my job not too longer after that and going all in on the entrepreneurship. But it's like that one moment that just like changes everything. But one of the most important parts about that, I just did a podcast on personal development. So much of our society has become fat on information. Like we love feeling good, reading these positive books or listening to Grant, and I feel awesome, but we don't do anything. And like you listen to that podcast and took action, called your agent, said, we're not buying this house. I want to do this. And it's like, that's the moment that I think true breakthrough happens. Like you could have consumed that and be like, okay, cool. I want to eventually get a multifamily. And that would have been this like dream that lives on for potentially ever that never actually becomes achieved. And I think so many people I want to do this, I want to do that, but they're so damn afraid to take action.
Right.
And you just fucking jumped right in.
Yeah, because of what you just said. I think people leave that for, like, I thought of my future first, you know, instead of me. And I think people are like, no, like, let's buy, like, I want the car today. You know, I want that Camaro. I want that house today. And that's like present. And I was like, that'll come later. Like, let me work on my future. So when I'm this age and my kids are this age, I'm good. You get what I'm saying? So I kind of went the opposite route of that. Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad I did that. You know, after that, I met a great agent and now we're partners. He's like one of my best friends. And I'm like, it worked out. Like, and he helped me buy my first fourplex. He helped me sell it, buy the one I just picked up. Like, he's been, you know what I mean? Like, killing it with me, you know?
Hey, so if you're a real estate agent out there, when somebody calls you and doesn't want to get that house and want to get some multiplex, you know, be upset. I understand that, but you got to make sure you work with him. Look at the opportunity that he missed out on by just being so short-sighted and looking for the commission. And I'm sure that's what it was, right? He had probably already mentally had that spent. Right. You know, like, oh, I'm going to do this with that and that.
Yeah, probably thought I wasn't serious. He's like, oh, this guy's not serious. And I'm like, no, I am. Like, I just want a 4-unit now. Can you help me out? Yeah, can you help me out? No, and then, you know, went from there, you know?
Incredible, dude. I love that story, man. Like, I can't wait. We're going to definitely clip that up, man. Because, I mean, I think there's so much, like I said, like, there's so many people that, like, want this success in life but aren't willing to take the actions. And we often know we need to do that action, but it's like we're so afraid to act on it. And that probably could have been a very scary moment because you're having a second kid.
Yeah,
I need the house. That safety of the house. And boom, you make this change. And so let me ask you, this is the thought that popped in my head. What was your wife thinking when you told her?
Well, at that time, my ex-wife actually, at that time, she was just like, I mean, blown away. Like my mom was, my dad was, like my sister was like, what are you doing? Like you're about to get your keys to the house. Like my mom was upset. Like my dad, everybody was upset about it. But I'm like I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like I know these 4 units are gonna be way better. You know what I'm saying? So like, let me figure this out. I got this. I know what I'm doing. Matter of fact, if we get a 4 unit, we'll live in one and we're renting the other 3. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it's a duplex, we could live on one side, rent the other one. Like we're gonna be good regardless. Yeah. Like I got it. Let me do it. You know what I mean? So yeah, everybody was upset. My mom was really pissed off because my mom was the one like, you need a house, get a house, get a house. So she was happy when I told her, hey, I'm getting the keys this week. And then I tell her like, Mom, I'm not buying the house no more. She was like mad. She's like, what? But you know, worked out then. You know what I mean? Like, and then once I sold that first fourplex, I showed her the check, and I'm like, this is, I told you to trust me. Yeah. She's like, damn, like, she gave me a big hug, and they're like, yeah, we always trusted you. You know what I mean? But it was a scary moment at that time,
And I think that sometimes is the issue for a lot of people wanting to take that leap into, whether it be entrepreneurship, investing, those types of things. They're so afraid because of what people around them say. Mm-hmm. But the thing that's so powerful about what you shared is that you had the vision, man. You believed and it was like obviously something that you just heard this, and like immediately vision became clear.
Right.
And like once you gain that clarity, man, I love to say clarity drives confidence, and confidence leads to high level execution. And when you're clear on like where you're going, everybody else may not see that, and that's okay. Like you don't need them to understand. As you just say, trust me, like I got this.
I got it.
And it's so funny. Like I love hearing the story of like the frustration and then the happiness on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how it was for my parents. They're like, what are you doing? Like you're leaving your job. And like, and I've definitely had some failures along, some struggles, right? Along the journey. But then it was like, when I was able to sell the solar company that I was involved in back, 2011, like, once again, I got the check and they're like, oh my God, like, okay, like,
okay,
we trust you. You know what I mean? And like every time that I built something safe and either sold it or went on to something else, like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't worry, I see it.
I see it.
So
I know what I'm doing.
I love sharing that, and this podcast, like I said, this is about helping people level up their life. And like, there's a lot of people that are like afraid to make that leap, afraid to downgrade their lifestyle from having a house to going into taking that money and putting it into a multi-unit. But it was like, when you're locked in, you're willing to make the short-term sacrifice for that long-term gain because you knew. Exactly. And more importantly, you knew the why, which was your family. Heaven forbid, knock on wood, anything ever did happen to you, you built something that actually is a cash flow asset for your family to be able to live on, so you're actually setting them up for the future.
Exactly.
And that's where the why matters so much, because when you have that motivation, I don't have a family yet, but I obviously have my wife, and I want to make sure that she's taken care of, because I would have, I couldn't even imagine leaving my wife in a position where she's not taken care of.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And that was my thing for my boys. Like, so I'm having, for me, like, I don't want my boys to be, going through that. Like, how are we going to, put food on the table next month, So obviously I'm still hustling, still going, but the goal is 100 doors, of course. That's the first goal. And I know.
That's the first goal. I know there's a bigger goal there.
Oh, yeah, we got plenty, but that's the first goal that I'm like, I know I can achieve that, within the next couple of years. So that's a target. I'm just thinking like for the future. When I bought that fourplex, I wasn't thinking for me. I was thinking like my 2 kids, that's the future. It's for them. It's temporary sacrifices, but long term it'll pay off. Well. And I mean, let's face it. Down the road, a multifamily is always going to be worth more, than just a 2-bedroom home. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely, man. And I think that like I said, like what you just said, like your why was your kids, right? And it wasn't personal focused. And I think a lot of times people get money and they're like, like I said, the agent, he already had it spent mentally. Like, oh, I got some money, I'm gonna go buy a Mercedes. I got this money, I'm gonna go buy a watch, or and granted, watches probably are a pretty good investment in certain circumstances,
especially nowadays.
But they think of the flash, the materialistic thing, and you thought about building an asset that kicked off cash flow, and you were talking about this before, so that you could then use that money to buy your liabilities.
Yeah,
which is what Grant Cardone talks about. You got to invest into assets that then pay for the liabilities in life.
Exactly.
And so many people have it the opposite way. They're like, oh, I'm gonna get this car, and then I'm gonna invest.
I mean, trust me, there was a few times where I wanted to pull out a car. I remember about 2 years ago, I went to the dealer. I wanted to get the Corvette Stingray.
Okay.
And I was like, they ran my credit, and I was so ready to do it. I'm like, man, like I've been driving my '97 Camry for 7 years. Like, I want to do it. You know what I mean? Like I can afford it. Like, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I don't need this right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I don't need it. Like, it's just a want. You know what I mean? And at the same time, like just like the house that we talked about, I was gonna settle for a 2-bedroom home. Like that's not the house I want. Like, why am I going to settle just for that? The Corvette's not the car I want. So why am I going to buy something that's not what I want? You know what I mean? I'm going to keep striving to get what I want. Like you said, what we deserve.
I love that, dude. Love it, man. Well, so okay. So you got into investing into property. You had your second child. I mean, obviously your boys are floating around here. So I see it's been a little while.
They're in here, man. They work with me.
They're a little bit older, right? So how did you, and because we haven't touched on Valley Jumpers, like where did that come from? Like, how did you get into that business, from real estate moving into that?
Yeah. So that came along with, I think I spoke on it earlier, having multiple hustles. You know what I mean? So then I started, when I was in Stockton, got a job at, doing retail sales. I was still cutting hair. I was selling on eBay. I started looking at the real estate deals, and then I wanted to pick up another hustle, And I was debating, like, should I buy vending machines and start putting those everywhere? Or I was looking at the chair and table business. And then I have found a guy, and man, this guy became my mentor. He helped me grow the business, like, to where it's at now. And he was selling some old equipment, and I went and talked to him, and then like I bought some of his old stuff, and yeah, man, like he helped me through a lot. And then from there, like I just saw the results little by little and just kept investing all my money. And now, I mean, I'm glad it's where it's at now, that I can provide other people with jobs, and they're good. You know what I mean? Like, so.
That's awesome. And I think that's one of the funnest parts of entrepreneurship is as you start to build a team.
Yeah.
And you start to be able to give them the opportunities to provide a better life for their families.
I love that, man. Like, I love like when my employees come and they're like, they buy their first car. Yeah. It's one of the greatest feelings ever when they're pulling up, because they're young, they're pulling up, and with the money they make working for me, they're able to get their first little car. You know what I mean? They're able to start getting their stuff, or taking their trips, or taking care of their girlfriends. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. I'm like, man, like, because of what I build, they're able to do this stuff, and I love that. That drives me even further to even take this business to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? To obviously give them higher wages, and so they could live a better lifestyle, but I love it. That's part of the entrepreneurship that I love right there.
It's funny that you mentioned the car thing, because I remember so vividly the first employee that we had at GoFresh that bought his first car, and like I'll never forget that moment. Like,
right.
He was so juiced
right.
to get his new car, and his mom had been driving him to work.
Right.
And like it wasn't like the greatest car, right? But it was like that he got freedom. And like it's those moments that when you just empower people in simplistic ways. Like, it's not even like, they went out and bought a Rolls Royce. That's going to be a different level. I can't wait till we both cross that road, right? But like, just being able to provide somebody with another level of life, helping them level up in their life because of the business that you built, right?
Exactly. Built from scratch. So, yeah, man. I took that company. Now, like I said, now we're at about 10 employees full time, and then, but during the summer we hit a peak. Like last year, we hit a peak about 22 during summertime. Of course, as we get on to winter, we got to cut down a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm grateful for that. Again, I didn't think nothing of it at first. I was like, it's just another hustle on the side, and then year after year, like the numbers just 10xing every time. So I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna rock with this vehicle, and yeah, from there, I think that's the most important thing in the entrepreneur field. Like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You know what I mean? Like, one thing can lead to another, and that, to me, like that's huge. Like, every step comes with new opportunities, but we're not gonna know until we cross that first step. So luckily, like, that industry that I jumped into, it's leading to my next new journey, which we'll talk about that maybe in part 2 podcast. Won't get into that today, but like, I wouldn't have thought of that new thing if it wasn't for me building this company. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the beauty of it.
Well, and like, we obviously talked about this a little bit pre-podcast, and probably should have recorded that too, because that was some fire that we're talking about. But I think what you're mentioning is like there's chapters of your life. And I think that they're like the old school way of like, in our parents' generation was like, you get this job, safety, security, get your house, like you stick at the same thing. Mm-hmm. But one of the things about being a very successful entrepreneur, just being, and I think the word entrepreneur is kind of like overused by people because they think, well, I own some, or I've got a little hustle or whatever, like I'm an entrepreneur. No, like you're probably a business owner. Mm-hmm. But I think a true entrepreneur is the person that can be able to move through the levels of life and be non-emotional about like we were talking about, like building something, putting so much time and effort into it, and then either selling it or maybe even having to shut it down or whatever avenue you go because you see there's a bigger picture. Right. And I think that often, like what you're saying here is that when you take that first step, that's when the second step appears. Yeah. But sometimes people want to see this full path. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's not how it is, man. It's often cloudy. Like, you just have to have that faith of like, I am walking in the right direction. Right. And from there, those opportunities start to show. And, like, it's like, you have to knock on the door of opportunity. And I think that first step is what allows you to even find that door. Mm-hmm. And the next step is opening that door. Like, the door doesn't just open,
of course
right?
Not.
You got to be willing to take that step. And I think that's like really in entrepreneurship about leveling up. Like, so many people get stuck at like, well, I've got this hustle, and they don't want to step up into that next step. Mm-hmm. And so for the fact that you're already envisioning what that next chapter is, that's incredible for you because you have that vision, like you said, the long-term vision. But it's like you're willing to be non-emotional about maybe being tied to Valley Jumper or,
Right.
even a property like, oh, this was our first property. No, got to sell this.
Got to sell it, keep it moving.
Yeah. So let me ask you, man, like how are you so confident that you know what you're doing? Because and I think I know the answer, but I would love to hear it from your words. Like, how do you feel so confident in making these decisions or having the belief that that is the right next step for you?
I think because, well, one is we're coming into a space that no one has touched, for sure, which at the same time, that's a scary thing. A very, very scary thing. But again, like an entrepreneur, like you take huge risk. Like that's who makes it, you know what I mean? And even if I gotta like go down a little bit, like when I mean like take bigger investments, risk more, spend a little bit less time with the kids, like whatever it is that I gotta sacrifice. But I know because of where I've been through, like at first when I started Valley Jumpers, I had to sacrifice all of my money to buy equipment. Over time, over years, it started to come. I started to see the results. I started to take the vacations, the trips, right? So I know, okay, I did that once, I can do it again, but this time at a 10x level. You know what I mean? So I know, like, if I put everything I got into it, it'll pay off. You know, most definitely will pay off. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of energy. It's gonna take a lot of money. Like, but it's gonna pay off. Like, I see it already, and that's the most important part to be able to have it in your brain. We're just talking about that. Even if somebody doesn't see it, like, as long as you see that vision, that's what it takes. You know, and then later on, years go by, and when they ask, hey, how did you do that? Or where you're at, or you're driving that Rolls Royce, and it's like, okay, but years ago, I was putting in the work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like while you were sleeping, I was putting in the work. Like I was doing way above and beyond from what other people, you know, are doing. Like I was feeling scared. I feel scared all the time, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like there has been times where my bank account, checking account, was sitting at like $15, and I'm like, fuck. Like what am I gonna do right now? Like I get scared. There's a lot of moments where I get scared. I don't know if this is the right move. I don't know if I should go this way, but I just do it. I just go for it. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think also too, it's like what you're saying is like you've built the business once, like you know how to do it again, right?
Exactly.
Like rinse and repeat, and it's like it's the same kind of thing as like I mean, entrepreneurship is freaking ups and downs, like peaks and real valleys, you know. And I think that's what's really challenging for a lot of people coming into entrepreneurship. They come in for the lifestyle, but they leave because of the challenges,
exactly.
Right? And you have to be like, and it sounds like with you, you're very much like me. Is like. We eat challenges for breakfast, bro. This is like what we came here for. Give me a bigger challenge. Like you said, like I want a bigger problem, you know, or maybe you said it before, but you said you want bigger problems because that's where the bigger paychecks come from.
Yeah.
And so it's like we have to be willing to face those challenges head on. And those challenges are what allow you to, as you find a new opportunity, to go, you know what? I've already been through this. I can do this.
I can do it.
Easy.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's so critical to understand why you're coming into entrepreneurship, like you said, with the why, with the kids, but be willing to deal with the challenges because those are going to come, man. The risk has to be, you have to be willing to tolerate the risk. And I think that's a huge part of entrepreneurship.
No, I agree with you, man. That's man, I've gone through some hard times, most definitely building a business, staying like long hours. I'm talking 16, 17 hour days. And like you said, this is stuff that people, when they start a business, they sometimes even people starting it for the wrong reason. You know, like they don't know like, what they're getting themselves into until like shit hits the fan. And it's like, what now? And it's either like you go that way, you go that way. A lot of times people will be like, I quit. I can't do this no more. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. The reason I am who I am as well is because like we got one life to live, right? So the way I see it is like I can always, I have a voice. I can always go get a job right now. If I want to, I can go and get a 6-figure job like this, you know, within a week I'll land a job. But I'm like, I got one life to live. I'm going to do and live that life to how we were saying, what I deserve, what my kids deserve, and everything that I want in life. I want to live that life to my full potential. And most of the time, a lot of us, we're not going for our full potential that we have. Yeah. And we don't even know what we got inside. And I think that's where a lot of people are holding back. Like they get scared knowing like, man, if you go for it, you got so much in you that you can just change your whole life around. Yeah. But you got to eat shit first, go through this, and then you'll get there. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's my thing. Like I just want to go for it. Like if I lose, I don't take it as a loss. Like I just learn my lessons and keep moving to the next thing. You know, just keep going. But it's like I said, I can always get a job. I can always land a job. I want to go for a life that I want, the life that I dreamed of.
Well, and it's funny, like, I mean, I don't want to say it's funny, but like, it's so easy to go, I want a Ferrari, I want a Lamborghini. Okay, cool. Are you fucking putting in the work? Are you willing to go quit your job or to go all in financially, drain your bank account, go into debt to go start this thing that you so believe in? Most people are terrified of that. and it goes back to like the family thing. It's because their surroundings are saying no, play it safe, And I think one of the challenges is like, obviously we've gotten to know each other over the years, and like now it's much easier because we have like this group around us that are all like hustlers and entrepreneurs, and you're like, yo, bro, like, am I right in this situation? And we've got a lot of good sounding boards to like share ideas with and bounce it back off of it. But in the beginning, it's challenging because you got a lot of like, I don't want to sound mean to anybody, but a lot of average people that are okay with a comfortable average life.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want this next level life, you got to be willing to do what nobody else around you is willing to do.
Exactly. You said it spot on, man. Like, people want this thing, people want this, people want that, but their actions say different. You know what I mean? Like that, and then that's the why I see. I'm like, no, like if I want this, like I got to do what I got to do to get that. Like it has to match. There's no in between, and that's where people like kind of like it holds them back from a lot of things. But I think what you're saying, fear, fear holds a lot of people back. Like their family will talk them out of it, or that comfort, which is okay. But it's like if you want just a comfortable life, making maybe $80,000 a year, $100,000, like. Don't complain that you can't go visit Italy. Don't complain like when you see that Lambo passing by, like, man, I fucking wish I had that. Don't say that because you can have that. You just gotta change what you're doing, but you can. You know what I mean? But otherwise, like if you're comfortable in that lifestyle, that's great. That's awesome. No hate on anybody like that. But there's a couple of us that just want a little bit more of life. You know what I mean?
So. I love that, man. Yeah, and it's so true because like what you're saying is like I think a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur, like they want the freedom, which as we've clearly stated in the volume of work and the risk that we take, it's not much freedom in the beginning.
No.
But I'm willing to sacrifice my 20s and 30s, and I did sacrifice a good chunk of my 20s, and I'm 34, I think. 34, I'm sacrificing a good chunk of my 30s, but I promise you by 38, 39, 40, life's gonna look a lot different, and my life looks a whole lot different than it did when I was in my mid 20s, and it's about like I'm okay with sacrificing 20 years to have the final 60 years of my life be fucking golden, man.
Exactly.
And is there gonna be work in those years too? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a different type of work, right? And I need to lay the foundation now for that type of life. Exactly. Like people think, I'm laying the foundation, and it's like, okay, cool. How long you been in? 3 months. Like getting ready to do this, getting ready to do that, and you're like. Bro, like you're living, and there's nothing wrong with living life, right? But like, and I think it is important to have a certain level of balance, right? But like, bro, like my wife and I had a talk about like this year, and we're at the beginning of going into the end of 2021, and we're like, all right, this year, this is a huge foundation year because obviously the agency was, we started last year, but like this is like the growth year for us. She's launched her business and it's growing, and like we just had to say like, look, this is the year we're gonna sacrifice. Like we have a big trip coming up for our anniversary, but like outside that, we're good with like, we're not going to see each other a lot during the week. Obviously, we sleep in the same bed, but like,
you're putting in the work.
Good morning, good night, and like, that's it because we have to be okay. But like, I think it's so important to understand like clarity around like, okay, I'm willing to do this and I'm going to sacrifice this. But so often like we want this and we're not willing to sacrifice that.
Saturday comes and we're sleeping in until about noon. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like taking a trip somewhere, like in the beginning, you can't do that. Like you got to put in the work. Like you got to stop seeing like this is for the people that are out there trying to build that lifestyle. You got to stop seeing it like Monday through Friday and then weekend off. Yeah. Like, no, it's every day. Whether you're working till 10 p.m. on Tuesday, whether you're working on a Sunday, like you got to do what you got to do in the beginning. For those entrepreneurs that are starting out or wanting to start that business, it's a 7-day thing. Yeah. Like it's a nonstop go. Will it pay off eventually? Absolutely. You bet your ass it will. But in the beginning, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I remember in my early to mid 20s, it was like, man, like I lived for the weekend, man. I had bottle service. My nickname was Belvedere Billy. I was always getting Belvedere, And it's so funny because like I think back to then, and it was like I'd wake up later on Saturdays, wake up later Sunday because I'm hungover, get nothing done. But I wanted to be this entrepreneur, but I wasn't willing to make the sacrifice. And it was this moment that I was like I think we went to Tahoe for New Year's in like 2013. And I think that weekend collectively I spent like almost $30,000 on bottle service.
Oh shit!
And let alone that we went to a festival. Like I was a good friend to have back in the day because you didn't have to pay for very much bottle service.
Man, I should have met you back then.
I was working my face off in solar during the week, and And then, and then on the weekends, I was just fucking party. And like, for me, it was like, I wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to launch businesses. I wanted to be able to invest, but I was pissing my money away.
Your actions were doing something else.
100%. So it's not even just about like, what are you doing with your time, but it's also what are you doing with your money, man? Like, are you just blowing it out? And nothing wrong with having some fun. Like, you should enjoy life, but like, it has to be like, okay, is your goal bigger than the fun? Like, or is fun bigger than the goal? Because if fun's bigger than the goal, you're never going to get the goal.
Yeah.
And there are times that I have to go, okay, you know what? Fun's going to be now, but then as soon as I'm back, I'm going to do that. And there has to be these ebbs and flows. And and you have to know that, I think it's the season that you're in. And like, where am I at? Am I in like grind mode where I just got to fucking hustle? Or am I in like, I can scale it back a little bit and spend some of that money and enjoy it? Because we still have to look back and go like, what are we working for, right? Like, there has got to be some life in it.
Right.
Because like the last thing I'm sure you want is like, when you do pass away at some point in life, that your kids look back and like, I don't remember dad ever being around. All he did was fucking work. And so, I'm not here to like having some fun, but like you have to be willing to make that sacrifice to get what you want in life.
Exactly.
Period. Otherwise, life will sacrifice what you want.
No, dead on. And I do that too. Like here and there, like I like to, like you said, like enjoy a little bit of it. Like, and like remind myself like, this is why I do it. Like whether it's I just go to the beach somewhere, I get a hotel, out there in Mexico, somewhere. But like it reminds me like, man, like I'm able to do this now. You know what I mean? Obviously, at one point I couldn't, but I'm able to do this now. So definitely celebrate your wins, because those wins it'll keep you going. But the problem, like you said, is sometimes people are celebrating their wins like repeatedly, like for a month straight. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like at one point you have to be like, all right, now it's back to grind mode. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then later on, like after you accomplish something or your next step, okay, now let's celebrate a win again. You know what I mean? Yeah. To keep going, keep that fueled, like why we're doing it for. So most definitely, like I agree with you on that, man.
Well, and I think the other important thing too is in that aspect is like, yes, I just won, but like, am I going to go blow the whole win on this weekend?
Exactly.
Right? Like, or am I going to go, okay, and I'm just using this for a number, like I made 100K. All right, I'm going to spend 10,000 on a vacation, but the other 90, it's going here to this business. So I'm going to enjoy this week because like, there are anniversaries, there's birthdays, there's certain moments where you should earn it. But like so many people, they think they earned it, but then the thing that they earned, they like piss off, and then they never get there because they feel like they're in this like they're stuck in this like
and it's like a cycle.
Yeah. So I mean, I love that we touched on it, and I know your mindset, and like that's why I was like, I need to get you on because I think it's gonna be a fucking fire podcast. But it's like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's this like, I want more, but I'm not willing to like map it out and look at it. So I know we're not going to talk necessarily about the other business that you're looking at, or that you're going to be venturing into. That'll be part 2. But like, obviously Valley Jumpers, it's been a great business, but like we talked about, like it's not going to get you to where you want to go in life ultimately, right? And I think this is one of the things that so many people get like into this thing in entrepreneurship, and they don't have the awareness to realize like, yo, this ain't the vehicle. Like it's a good vehicle, and it got me here, and I appreciate that. But like, there's something more for me. Exactly. And so like, like I said, we're not going to talk about the business, but I would like you to share like a little bit about how you're looking at this opportunity and like why you're looking at this next opportunity versus like just going all in on Valley Jumpers.
Right. I think for that same reason. Well, one, I got this guy, Miguel. He's a manager, and it's an opportunity for him also to put him in a 6-figure position now. He's been with me the longest, and I have a huge respect for him, man. Like he stood by since the very beginning when I was kind of starting. So him and one of my other guys, like me going on to this next step, this next journey of mine, it'll put them on that spot where they can both start making 6 figures, not only, but like not capped out, like 6 figures probably starting and even more. They can level up, and that's what I want. Like they've been rocking with me for a long time, so I'm like, okay, like I gotta find a way or a vehicle to take this to a whole nother level, and that'll put them in a whole nother spot. Like this is for your years of sacrifice, the hard work. Like now you guys are 6-figure earners. Both of them are not even 21 yet. I mean, come on, So that's step 1, and then step 2, like thinking bigger. Obviously the first goal, like, when I was younger, it's like, okay, I can't wait till I make 100K. I think that's probably everybody's goal, like 6 figures, to touch 6 figures. You touch 6 figures, and it's like, okay, what now? Like, I did it, like, it's still not enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the next, it's $1 million, but now I'm looking at it like the goal is 8 or 9 figures. Like that right there. And because the more I grow, the more I can give back, the more I can expand, the more families I can help, the more, churches, charities that I can contribute to, but I mean, if you're only making, let's take a quick example. If you're making $4,000 a month, can you really help that many people? after you pay your mortgage, your bills, utilities, right? If you're making $40,000 a month, hey, $1,000 to this church or this, charity, now you can do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now you can probably pay your mom's mortgage for the month. You can help your sister or brother if they're struggling. So that's the way I see it. Like the more I make, the more I can help. Like I had to be selfish at one point because I was, with my money, I was tight because it was going towards investments. Yeah. But the long-term goal is I want to be the opposite of that. Yeah. Like I want to give back so much, and I just can't do it by only making X amount of money a month. So I know if I hit 8 figures or 9 figures, yearly, I can do so much more. I can contribute, a lot more. And not only that, but I want to change my last name, the generation. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't want to, like a lot of people start businesses, but they kind of plateau. They just stay there like, oh, we just got a business. We got a restaurant for years, but it's like the same thing. I'm like, no, like I started it. It's good. It pays the bills. Most definitely pays for the trips. But now it's like, okay, what's next? Yeah. I want to take this to a whole nother level. You know what I mean?
Most business owners, it's just a job.
It's just a job.
Let's be perfectly frank. It pays their bills. It's enough to live, but it's not about like, and I loved what you just said, but like, it's like, it's like about like, how do I do more? How can I provide more? And when you said, you had to be selfish in the beginning, and I think it's like, it's so hard for people to be selfish about their time, their energy, like their boys hit them up on the weekends, let's go do this, or their parents are like, you got to be at this birthday. And like, yeah, there's some birthdays you're going to have to miss. There's some family events, there's some fun things that you're going to have to miss. And I had to do a lot of that sacrifice, but it's like, you've got to be selfish in the beginning so you can be selfless down the road. Yeah. And I think so many people want to be selfless in the beginning, and then at some point they get selfish because they're like, shit, I'm in this tough spot. Exactly. And it's like, I'd much rather sacrifice in the beginning by being selfish. And I don't think anybody really calls you that selfish, but like, you have to be focused on yourself in the beginning so you can lay the foundation so you can be selfless for the rest of your life and be able to change not only your family and your life, but like
generational.
The generation. You can set up, like you said, the churches, the community. And I like, that's a big deal for me, is being able to give back. But it's like, if I'm only able to give back this little bit, like, what if I went all in on this and I'm able to give back all this?
Exactly. Right? Like, one thing I do, I like going to Rosarito in Tijuana. Yep. I go about 3 times a year. And, every time I close a sale or I make a little bit of, extra money, I like going over there and giving away, whether it's $500. Last time I went, I gave away $1,000 just to families out. So I'm like, okay, if I can do that now, like imagine being at an 8-figure, where I can give away, 20,000 or build like a nonprofit out there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like all funded by me, where I can give and help families out there.
And that doesn't just change you. That changes
families. I impact a lot.
The whole community, probably.
Exactly. Right? You know what I mean? So and not only there, but here too. Yeah. You know what I mean? I want to do. There's so much that I want to do and contribute, but it's like I can't do it at the level I'm at. Yeah. You know what I mean? So when I say like this next thing is gonna be like 100x, it's going to be 100x because that's an exit strategy. It'll put me there. It'll just change the whole family. It'll impact a lot of people's lives, not just mine,
And I love that, man. I appreciate you sharing all that because, I mean, one, we get to see the other side of like the bigger vision outside just the family and helping your kids, right? But it's like the bigger goal of like being able to help a lot of people, like changing the environment around you. And it's so funny because like, for me, like what really changed my life, because like in my earlier days when I first moved to Modesto, I was broke as fuck. Like I had just gotten sued by Foot Locker. I lost basically everything. And I'm in this position where I'm working at In-N-Out.
You work for Foot Locker?
No, I had a company that got sued by them for trademark infringements and
okay.
a couple other things involved in that. But I
was like, you're probably my competitor, Max.
I never wore the stripe. I was never a referee. And it was funny because we just got done shooting a podcast. I said we were talking about East Bay magazine, and that's partially the reason that we got sued. And I was like, yeah, fuck East Bay. I used to love it when I was a kid, and then I fucking hate them. I'll never step back into Foot Locker, never support Foot Locker ever again. Their stock just plummeted after Nike pulled their shoes. And I was like, fuck them.
Hey, they were my biggest competition when I was in retail sales. I worked for Shoe Palace. So, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I definitely spent a lot of money at Shoe Palace, unfortunately. But yeah, so like, like I got sued. I was here, and it was so funny because like there was this homeless guy when I was in In-N-Out, and it was like this moment that changed my life, right? I'd already done some personal, I'd already read that book from Jeff Olson. I had like taken the leap of faith in entrepreneurship and lost everything. And I moved here I moved here with the girlfriend I was dating at the time because she's like, yo, it's like $700 a month for an apartment. You're paying like $2,200 up in Walnut Creek. Like, why don't you just move here? And so I moved here, and I was struggling, man. And I got this job at In-N-Out Burger, and I'd been working there for almost a year because I genuinely thought I was going to be a store manager. Like I was like, cool, like it's $100K a year, like benefits, like this is good. I don't want to smell like burgers every weekend. I don't want to work Friday, Saturday nights working at In-N-Out, right? No shame to anybody that works at In-N-Out. It's an incredible opportunity, especially starting out.
I love the food.
And I still
eat it probably once a week.
I am a regular customer there and will forever be. There's nothing like being out of state or in another country.
Man.
First stop I do is right back to
In-N-Out,
man.
exactly.
There's something about that just reminds me of California. But, I was out there and this guy was just complaining about Modesto, this homeless guy, right? Complaining, Modesto's so shitty, there's trash everywhere, da-da-da-da-da. And then he was eating a burger that a customer gave him, right? Like somebody went and bought him a burger and gave it to him. And I'm out there sweeping. And he just throws the trash on the ground. And like there was an epiphany that I had that I was like, you either can contribute to why your environment's not good, or you can contribute to making it better. And it was like this moment that I was like, fuck, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I need to change
that was that spark right there.
Yeah, well, and then there was another moment where literally, like, right afterwards, I was out there sweeping. I go back inside. It's Friday night. It's cracking, dude. Just
Friday night,
Friday night. It's crazy. Especially when, before they opened the second one here in Modesto, Paladale used to have all the car.
The car meets.
So it was like slam, dude, inside. And I'm making this strawberry milkshake. I so vividly remember this. Strawberry milkshake, and there was this girl behind me that was, like, talking, and she was kind of a person that talked a lot, right? And she's sitting there talking, and she's like, I can't wait to get my college degree. I'm gonna make so much money, da-da-da-da. And I had a college degree at the time, and I was like, fuck, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, because I realized so many people think this one little simple thing, like a college degree, is gonna change their life.
Yeah,
bro,
it's not.
Nothing changes your life but you.
Exactly,
and
your
it was
decisions.
this moment that I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And that week, I actually went back that night and started reading personal development. I was like, I need to get back on it. Like, I need to change this shit. I have to become more to have more in life. And it's like talking about your environment, man. Like, we have to make the sacrifices in life to be able to create that environment that we want. You know what I mean? Like, same thing going back to what I talked about, like, now at this point in our careers, and it's only going to get better from here, is that our surrounding, the people that are around us, are beasts. Like, we've got a lot of mutual friends that are fucking crushing it, right? And we're both doing well ourselves, but it's like, when you're an early entrepreneur, you feel like, oh man, like I can never have that. And it's like, it's about changing you first, and then you start to attract that environment around you.
Exactly.
And like, everything is about the actions that you take will change the environment, whether it be contributing to other people and helping financially make the environment better for other people, or it's like starting yourself. But you have to understand that it's about the decisions you make that change the surrounding around
your circle, your people, your
people, and impact the people around you, man. Like, now with the circle that I have, a lot of them, we do business together, whether it be through the agency, whether it be through investments. And those types of things for me have been the most powerful, because it's like through my actions have led to me impacting my friends, whether through employing them, whether, Brian, who's shooting this podcast, like, we've known each other for 6-7 years at least, if not longer than that. And, now it's been able to work for us. I've known Gabe, who's our project manager, for quite some time. Rafa, he started shooting content for me before, now works at the agency. And like, it's so incredible to be able to create something to make that impact, like you said, for your guys on your team. Like, they bought into your belief on Valley Jumpers,
right?
And they're like, yo, we're rocking with you. And you're like, yo, I'm gonna return the favor.
And don't get me wrong, right now I got 2 of them, which is them, that have stuck by. Like, obviously, I mean, as a company, you own a restaurant, you own any sort of business, you're gonna have, the turnover is a lot of people come, a lot of people go, and there's a crazy part. A lot of people that have left before want to come back because they see what it's like working. An example, like a Taco Bell, you clock in, you clock out, you know what I mean? And then it's like they're on your ass for everything, you know what I mean? So over here, it's a little bit different. And, a couple months go by and they're like, hey, we want to come back. Like, a big majority want to come back. Like, we just provide a different environment, you know what I mean? And that's a big key thing when you run a business, is having a great environment. Obviously, we got Miguel, he's our manager, he's a great leader, and having that leadership right below as well to continue to run everything else, so.
Well, and it speaks volumes to you as a leader, because the environment is created it starts at the top, right? It starts, if you're a bad entrepreneur or a bad CEO, the rest of the business is gonna be bad. You can't have a great culture based upon your employees,
right?
Like, it starts with you. And so it's it's funny, because like, I think a lot of, I keep saying it's funny, I think that's just like my thing I fucking say. I often acknowledge like weird things. I'm like, why do I say that? Like, some people say like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I think I say it's funny, but like, when we ultimately were leaving GoFresh, like, I started looking at my key leaders and going like, where can I help you get into opportunity? And like, one of our guys, shout out to Ethan Ramos, in 2 months, January, he started with Bright World Solar, and we were able to plug him in there. And now, first month was a training month. Second and third month, he did over $30K each month himself.
Look at that.
And it's like that, he made more money in 2 months, like well more than well more the amount of money he made in 2 months than he did in 12 months working for my last company. And like, I think as an entrepreneur, so many people are like, yo, these people like owe me because I'm paying them. Like, no, bro, they bought into your vision. Like, these are my people. I gotta treat them almost like a family. And that's one of the greatest things for building culture is like, investing into your people. Like, I mean, I've given these guys books. Like we'll have a conversation. I'm like, yo, dude, like you guys should check out this book, and then I just buy it. And I'm like, here you go. Like whether it be through knowledge, whether it be through creating that culture, like it's about helping the people around you become better, man. And I think too often we get selfish, and this goes back to what you said earlier. Like you've not focused on like your personal needs. You focused on like the long-term goal, and part of that long-term goal is helping the people that believe in you. And I think entrepreneurs, when you're interviewing somebody, you're selling them kind of on the dream, and they're kind of buying into you, and then people make decisions, like the entrepreneur makes decisions purely on their own needs. And it's so unfortunate when I see that, but it's like, yo, this person bought into you. They stuck with you for 5 fucking years, dealt with your bullshit, dealt with the ups and downs. I want to be looked at here in the Valley, and this is not like a personal, like, ooh, like, look at me. I'm looked at like, I want to create the type of opportunity that people go, I need to work there because they change people's lives. Like, this is one of the greatest opportunities to, if somebody says, oh, I work at Galley, you're like, oh, damn, you got a good job. Like, I want people to look at Level Up Group and be like, damn, you got a good ass job. Like, I've heard the culture there is great. I've heard, that everybody there is incredible. Like, it's a great environment, great people. It's always about growth. I mean, we're not called Level Up Group for no reason. Like, we're a group that's fucking leveling up, man. The podcast is not called about level up your life because we're just like fucking chilling. Like, it's about leveling up, man. And like, for me, it's like about breaking through, and like we have to make some adjustments. Like we were talking about this yesterday, is that like you have to make the adjustments necessary in your business to be able to get not only yourself but your team there. Because dude, like I'm a small person that stands on giant shoulders. Like my employees, the people on our team, I hate calling you guys employees. Sorry, Brian. You're part of the team. Like I'm no better than them. They're no better than me, right? They don't work for me. They work for the company, right? I'm an employee of the company too. But like as the entrepreneur, I stand on the shoulders of literal giants. Brian is a pretty fucking big guy.
He's bigger than all of us, man, for sure.
Especially with that beanie on, man. We've done some back-to-backs, and I'm still pretty confident he's taller than me. But like I stand on the shoulders of giants, and so many entrepreneurs think they're the giant, and everybody else is small around them.
Yeah, no.
Like you take care of your leaders. You're thinking about them while looking at this next opportunity. You're not like, cool, they're gonna run this business, I'm going to go find new people to run this business. You're like, yo, bro, you're coming with me.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, like, why I appreciate him so much is that I haven't always been able to take care of him just because we're barely growing the company. Yeah. We're barely starting out, but I do tell him, like, and, it's going to pay off for sure. So I respect them for that reason, that even when I haven't been able to take care of them, after a year or 2 or 3 years, like, both of them, they're still rocking with me. So I got them in the back of my mind, like, I'm going to take care of them big time. Yeah. You know what I mean? So this next vehicle is a way to do that, and do more than that.
And I bet you, and you can confirm me if I'm right or wrong, but like a lot of why people follow you and are willing to stick through that is because of who you are and the growth trajectory that you're on. The focus of always becoming better through Grant Cardone, through other personal development. Right. Like you are actually getting better, and they're like, damn, this guy keeps getting better. His vocabulary gets better. His vision gets better. His work ethic gets better. Like all these things keep getting better. Like I'm bought into you. They're probably not bought into Valley Jumper. They're bought into Eric Rocha, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to probably the social medias, the platform. I think you're dead on that. I think there's been a lot of people that have been following me on Instagram for a while, and they seem like step by step, not only step by step, but they seem like the people I'm now around with, like you and other successful people, that they're like, okay, like this guy's now around, bigger people, so his circle's changing, and I think that's big. But don't get me wrong, just like how I had followers been following me and growing and all that, it's also the opposite too. And I know you're probably familiar with this, but I also get hate, and I got 100%. That from like, I don't know if you know Albert Preciado, like he talks a lot about on this, the haters, and Grant Cardone. Sometimes I go through like his TikToks, and you see like bunch of crazy negative comments.
TikTok is like the worst platform.
For Grant, for most definitely for Grant Cardone. Like I see like every comment is like a negative comment, but then I sit there and I'm like this guy is a multi-millionaire. He got multi-family apartments. He's good, and you're over here hating on him. Like why? You know what I mean? But you're gonna get that. That's part of the game. So I myself also, as I grow on the social platforms, I also lose followers because my content is not for everybody.
100%.
You know, my content is for that entrepreneur that's like, man, should I go for it? Should I not? Should I start this business? Like, man, I'm stuck here. What should I do? That's who my content is for.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for the average person that's working, you know, wants a 401k, wants to retire at 65. My content is not for that, you know, and that's okay. Everybody like Gary Vee, not everybody likes Gary Vee because he cusses after every second word. You know what I mean? Like Grant Cardone, not a lot of people like him. Like not everyone's gonna like you. And I think that's a big thing as an entrepreneur is that understanding that part, that as you grow, trust me, people are gonna hate on you as well. Like, look at that guy. Look at, he thinks he's that. He thinks he's that. He's so cocky now. It's not that we're cocky. It's not that, hey, like, I'm just not gonna have that same conversation with you because I'm leveling up. You know what I mean? I'm in a different spot of my life that requires different dedication, different friendships, different networking. So as I grow, of course I'm gonna change. When people say, "Hey, bro, you've changed," most definitely, but you haven't, and that's the problem. You know, as I level up, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta go where I gotta go. And I gotta change. It has to force me to change.
Change scares people a lot, man.
It does. It most definitely does. But it's like I don't want to be. I have flashbacks, and I'm like I don't want to be in the same spot that I was when I was in high school, when I was growing up there. So therefore, it's gonna require for me to, you know, talk different, walk different, be a different person. But I don't forget my roots. I don't forget where I come from. No, not at all. Like on the littlest thing, like I remember everything. But it's just like forcing me like to be somebody else. You know. So I think my content on Instagram is probably for that individual right there, and I get a lot of great people that'll respond, great, you know, feedback, like, man, like, thank you, like, I've been following you, like, your messages, you know, help me get this, and that's a great feeling, you know, when I get the, you know, the feedback like that of people that it hits them. It like almost like Grant Cardone impacted me and changed my life. Like I'm glad that I can do that. And somebody out there's watching and be like, oh man, like that right there, what he just said, that hit. You know, and they take that, implement that in their lives, and be the reason why they change or them leveling up. And if I could do that through like a video that I posted, like I love that. If I could impact one person, that's what it's about. You know, like it's awesome. I love that.
And I think it's important to be aware of the reality that some people aren't gonna like it. And that's cool. Yeah. Like I remember when I first started posting entrepreneurial content, maybe 4.5 years ago or so. Shoot, maybe even 5 years ago. It's been quite some time that I started putting out content. And I remember, like, vividly remember this high school, somebody I went to high school with. Like, I liked something of theirs, and I was like, you know, I haven't seen them liking any of my stuff. And I looked at the page, and they had unfollowed me. And I was like, and I realized
it hit you, huh?
It kind of was like a little, like, sour taste. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And then I was like, the reality, and I saw that for quite some time. Like, I got some hate from people that used to love me. And they're like, bro, you've changed. Like, you know, like we said. Or, bro, like, you know, you're just trying to fucking make people rich or what, or you're just trying to act like you're rich or something like that. And, you know, the thing is like what you just shared is like your story, bro. Like, I think when people look at like, and they're in this position of like wanting to put out content or be an entrepreneur, they think they need to like educate everybody. Like, all right, so here's the 3 ways you do this. Like, no, bro, like share your story.
Exactly.
Like it's about putting out your journey and be willing to share the behind the scenes. Like Gary Vee always says, document, don't create. And I think so many people want to create these like 3 ways to become a realtor, and I see this a lot in the real estate game, but they like try to like educate people on like homes and shit like that. And it flops. Nobody like engages with it because they're trying to like be factual. And I always like to say facts tell, stories sell. Mm-hmm. And if you want to like empower people, it's about selling your story, man. And I don't mean like selling to make a financial conversion, but to help make the conversion of somebody changing their life.
Yeah, because that's how you impact
the transaction that I'm looking for. Is I want to help more people go from where they're at to where they want to go through the content that I post.
Exactly.
You know, and nobody's ever going to go, you're wrong. How am I wrong? That's my fucking journey.
That's me. Yeah.
I literally did this. So like, if you're telling me I'm wrong, that means my life was alive.
Yeah.
No, bro. Like I did this. I was here, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
And this is what I did.
And I'm saying it. I'm putting it out there.
Exactly. And so many people want to like, they're afraid to put out content because they're worried that somebody's going to tell them they're wrong, or that like somebody in their industry is going to be like, that's factually incorrect. It's like that's your fucking story. So it's nobody can.
It works for them.
Nobody can take that away from you. And everybody, our journeys are completely different. Now, while there is a certain amount of the same ingredients of hustle and work, like we went through different things. And so I can't say your story is wrong because my story is different. No, these are our stories, bro. And I think if you can just put yourself out there and share your stories, I think a couple things end up coming from it is like not only the empowerment of other people, but people end up gravitating towards you. And that's a way of recruiting people into your business. People wanting to work with you because they're like, you know, like not just in not be an employee, but like also want to work with you because they're like, dude, like I vibe with this guy. Like I find relatability in his story, or he's got similar core values, or you know, his focus on his kids is the same that I got to focus. Like, I need to work with this guy because of that. And so I think we try to sell so much and be factual when we're putting out content, but it's just about putting your story out there, man.
Exactly.
You know, and I think there are people that have been factual, like Fabian, right? Like Fabian's an incredible factual guy, but it's also, he's been willing to share his story along with the tax side of being
As he
factual.
goes.
And like, that was how I started following Fabian. It wasn't because of the tax content. It was that he started sharing his story and sharing that he does this while working a full-time job. And like, to now see him like be all in on his tax business, and his business has exploded since then, dude, that gets me fucking fired up, and it pushes me to work harder, right? And so, well, yes, he's extremely factual when it comes to his tax content. His journey, his story is what fires me up as an entrepreneur, makes me want to work harder. So shout out Fabian, bro. FS Tax Services.
Yes, great guy.
But, you know, like, and I think people get overcomplicated on like what kind of content to put out. Just put your story out.
Just put it out. And I think the biggest thing is that understanding that what you just said is big, but like, just because it didn't work for this person, we may be in the same industry, the same thing that we do. Just because this person failed or didn't do it right or just didn't work out, it doesn't mean that you're going to go that same route. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing for you. And I think that's what scares people sometimes. They see other people, maybe the uncle or the mom, like, hey, I did that 5 years ago. Like, you know what? Don't do that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you probably did it this way. Let me see how you did it. And then you got to take your own journey and implement what you know in a whole different way. Yeah. I mean, 5 years ago, we didn't have TikTok, right? Yep. And now that's a new platform where you can just scale and blow things up. So you got to be willing to adapt as you go, make the changes necessary, and understand that your journey is different than mine. It could be the same industry, but because that person failed doesn't mean I'm gonna fail. Yeah. You know what I mean? Be different about it. Like you said, we all have different journeys, and most important thing is just putting it out. Don't worry about the likes. Don't worry about the views. Just put it out. Yeah. If somebody sees it and it touches them, and that's it. That's a win.
And I love that, because it's so true. And like what we talked about earlier, like sometimes putting that content out, it's fucking therapy, man. Like, we just went through a challenge and we overcame it. And we're like, bro, like this just happened. Like, and so often, like, I think it's a release valve too. Like that's where this podcast started. Was like I did want to share other people's stories, but like it evolved into like me sharing the lessons that I went through. You know, like, you know, even like the mental aspect of no longer being Billy Go Fresh and like that identity change. Like, I shared that story, and like a bunch of people hit me back, were like, yo, bro, like I'm kind of going through that. Like how did that happen? How did this happen? And so like sharing your story, like if I'm being totally transparent, I think if you're not willing to put yourself out there, you're actually being greedy, because you're so afraid of what somebody's going to say negatively to you. But have you thought about how your story or what you're doing is going to impact somebody positively? Yeah. And so don't think of it as like the negative. Think about like, man, like there's somebody out there that needs to hear what I'm going through. Exactly. Or hear what I went through, or hear my journey, because that's going to empower. Even like you said, one person. If I can get one person to change from this podcast, fucking win, man.
That's a win,
and, which I know y'all better, there might be multiple people that gain something from this podcast. For sure. But it's like, you know, if one person can gain, like, it's it.
Yeah, and I seen that when I started posting content on TikTok, and that's just been within the last couple of months. But my content there has been a little bit different than the Instagram, and I started getting the feedback on that. On there, I speak more on the relationship-wise, you know, and I started getting a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, and it's like it's crazy the amount of people that went through that have the same experience or are going through that. And that's what motivates me. Like, damn, like, you know what, I'm gonna make another video. And then like sometimes I go for my cardio run, I think of stuff and I'm like, man, like I gotta put this out there. Like I gotta say this, like something just tell me I gotta say it, and I go make a video, and then I'll get like a whole bunch of comments of other people that are going through the same stuff, and they're like thanking me, like, thank you for this message, I needed to hear this today, like, man, God bless you. That's an amazing feeling, you know what I mean, to be able to already impact so many people at, you know, just getting started. And I wouldn't think like my TikTok would go where it's at now. So I mean, I'm grateful for it, you know, thank all my followers. So it just motivates me to keep going, and it lets me know like, hey, Eric, you got a voice, use it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to use it to my full potential, keep going. I mean, you could hate it, you could love it. At the end of the day, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. I think that's a great place to wrap up, man. There's definitely got to be a part 2, especially once you launch the new business. Yeah. We can get into that, get into like where it came from, all that, because, I mean, we covered a lot today. But I think there's a whole lot more we could dig in.
Oh, there's plenty more.
I think we're well over an hour, and I try to get Brian's laughing before all of our batteries run out and our SD cards fill up. You know, before that, dude, just thank you so much for hopping on, man, and like sharing with everybody your journey. And I do want this podcast to be something where we can continue to bring people back on. You know, I've had Hector Reyes on a couple times. I got my boy EJ Cruz coming back. We got Andy Zamora coming in here soon. And I love sharing the evolution, because this is about leveling up your life. And like, this isn't like your final destination right now. This is not the final Eric Rocha. Like there's going to be, and I would love to get you to come back on maybe every couple months or, every 6 months where we can really see the growth. And that's what I hope to show through this is there's like transformations that are happening quickly and often for even some top entrepreneurs. And so that's what I hope to do here. But before we wrap up, man, I know you mentioned your Instagram handle before, but how can they find you on Instagram, TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, Eric_Rocha. Simple as that on both of them. Yeah, cool. Eric Rocha, that's it. And again, Billy, thank you for having me. Yeah. And I'm excited for part 2 because I know you're going to love it. Yeah. I know everyone's going to love it, and it's going to be mind-blowing, but I'm excited, man. I don't even know what this business is. He will not share with me, so I have to wait for part 2. Yes. Appreciate you, man. Everybody, if you got anything from this, make sure, first and foremost, that you follow Eric. Was that? Sorry. Oh, okay, yeah. So make sure you follow Eric. Sorry, guys, this is a raw podcast. I never fucking blurp anything out. I'm a big shout out to Joe Rogan because he gave me the confidence to be able to say like, hey, move that mic closer to your. Like, I don't want this perfect podcast. It is very natural. It is a conversation. It's friends sitting here talking. But make sure you follow Eric on Instagram, on TikTok. Specifically, TikTok sounds like it's popping over there. So make sure you follow him. Make sure you let him know what you got from this podcast. If you got anything, also share it with your Instagram followers. Make sure you tag myself, Level Up Society, and Level Up Group. That way we can grow. We also appreciate it if you guys subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star review, because that's how we are able to level up this podcast and make a bigger impact on everybody. Because like Eric and I both spoke about, we want to help more people level up their lives and create the life that they deserve. So with that, we'll see you guys back here for the next episode of the Level Up Your Life podcast.